So it's about 7:30 in the morning on Saturday, the first day of the autumn or national holiday, which actually now is legislated to run for 7 days at a time, not just a day. Oh, the fountains are going off. That's pretty. And I'm here to visit the Big Pagoda, and as soon as it opens up at 8 o'clock, I'll visit that and then walk up to Xi'an Museum, which promises to have a tremendous amount of historical artifacts. I'm not sure what these large round pillar-like devices are for, but very Egyptian it seems like. The tour groups are already starting to amass, but there will be in huge numbers here, I'm sure, because it's easily accessible. As I look down these reflection pools, hoping that these little fountain spouts will erupt all of a sudden, as you look at the pagoda, and it's called the Big Goose Pagoda, it seems to be leaning to the right, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I think they're giving them their early morning test. They just ran down through all of the courtyards. I think he's doing it electronically. But you can imagine what they'll look like when they all go off, which I'm sure they will today sometime. The area approaching the pagoda is very, very beautiful and park-like, as is typical of at least Beijing and Xi'an here, but also typical with less maintenance elsewhere. And here are some inscription plaques that are installed on the ground. I have no idea what they say. Here's some older gentlemen practicing one of the many forms of what we Westerners call Kung Fu. There are two kinds of Kung Fu. One is the internal, one is the external. The internal tries to capitalize on smooth, soft movements that throw you off balance, whereas the external tries to use force and violence. Here are some more of those decorations, for lack of a better term, on the ground in this courtyard. These much more elaborately carved floral design. No idea what they mean. It's the first time I've seen these. Curiously, from the site's loudspeakers, I believe Kenny G. Kenny G apparently is very popular over here. And of course, it is a beautiful ambience. So they're all going off at one time. Okay, this looks like just a little bit of a test startup, see if they can all run simultaneously, but they're not full bore yet. Apparently this was built in AD 652 at the order of the monk Zhuangzang, who is either true or fictional, I'm not clear yet, was the monk who traveled west, and it's portrayed in the story The Journey to the West, which the lead character is now a legendary character called Monkey. And he went there to get the sutras of Buddhism from India directly and bring them back and translate them, for which he spent many, many years doing. And this was built apparently for the purpose of storing those. This is obviously a new panel of carved relief, probably depicting scenes from the history of Xi'an. Here probably reference to the Silk Road. Just like our American history and vignettes of George Washington Franklin, little vignettes like this are probably meaningful to the Chinese. Here a scene with horses, but almost looks like someone is also on a boat, in a boat, another person praying in the front of the boat while the person behind steers. And this little vignette down to the left, a man playing what might be like a zither. These are again probably nuances that the Chinese would understand. Of course, this is a nuance that most everyone in the world who's educated would recognize. Here they're paying what looks like polo. With also, I noticed the polo stick is very much like both the tool that farmers use and a weapon, ancient weapons. Here are some tourist figures. And some folks rocking out gently to probably their own music or the background of the site. About my speed. Here an offshoot on the badminton birdie game. This one for a little more relaxed. This one purposely capable of a little bit more artistic appreciation. Ni hao. Now, I don't know where in the first world nations you encounter people doing waltzing at 7 o'clock in the morning, but must be a park up there somewhere. An instrument, it looks like a tambourine type instrument. Notice the construction going on of several very large buildings. Quite a large complex, I just noticed. Who this is, I don't know, but notice the yin-yang sign. So in theory, this man is making divination. This is a Tang dynasty fortune teller. This man explaining to me in Chinese all about it. Notice that the construction continues on across the street from the other large buildings. So the quaint custom of seniors from all countries getting in for free ends in Xi'an, or at least it ends at this site. This is the bell tower, and across from it the obligatory drum tower. The bell tower was the command, if you will, for the monks in a monastery. It regulated their day, told them when they had to pray, etc., etc. There we can see a very huge ceremonial drum. The drum sound is apparently called the earth sound and considered to have magical attributes, principally used in sacrificial ceremonies. Interesting to imagine how this has been embellished. Notice the new rock on that staircase. Since the temple was first built, principally since the Cultural Revolution, in an effort to attract and appeal to tourism, and not just American or European tourism. The gardens in these parks are beautifully maintained. This is all new, of course. Some of this may be old. Don't know what it looks. It looks kind of like steles, but not really. All these buildings to my left seem totally new. The pagoda design comes originally from India's stupa design, usually with the lotus leaf flower or bud at the top, which we see there. This is a square-sided one, which may represent Earth. Certainly the Chinese modified the pagoda concept to suit their own interests. There is also one sect that created an 8-sided one because they had 8 views of the universe rather than 4. Here's a list of all the things that we can see, most of which either I couldn't understand or are reproductions. And other than getting a bird's eye view, which you can get from the tower inside the city, I'm sure they're going to charge, so I'll skip it. The Chinese will charge for absolutely everything, so I will skip the $6 charge to use my energy to go to the top. This is the Peony Pavilion. And apparently the background here is that during the Tang Dynasty, the rich and powerful related themselves to the late spring, crowded around to watch the early purple peony blossom, which it sometimes did at night, and some people got up to watch the flower in the moonlight. Ethel would appreciate this more than I, that this garden here now today has more than 50 varieties of peonies. I'm not sure I know what a peony is, but on the assumption that she will. But I think these are roses. They look like roses, they have spines. So maybe the peonies aren't blossoming yet. Maybe these are peonies. Ethel, what do you think? I guess as much of what I'll see now is all new and same old, same old. So I'll take a quick look inside here and then move on. Everything is so polished and new here in China compared to Southeast Asia that places like this takes the lure off it, if you will, or the allure. This is interesting. Birds suspended in their cages. Looks like a raven type. This is probably analogous to the stupa gardens, if you will, or forests of Southeast Asia. Different. They kind of look like stupas, but maybe they're the Chinese version of it. They kind of look old, so perhaps they are, although much that surrounds them, like the base, is not. Typical bell. Maybe from this bell tower, I don't know. China, all new. There's some bullwhip noisemakers. Here's a beautiful architectural feature that someone could put inside their house very easily, kind of like Dr. Tostada has in his office. Here are Chinese wrestlers and the referee. Hey, this arcade is on this side. I'm walking completely now around. The pagoda is coming alive with their souvenir kiosks opening up. This recreates the hypothetical situation of a Tang doctor taking the pulse of a man to aid in his cure. This depicts Tang shadow actors, if you will. They're using their little puppet type things to create shadows, apparently, and a very excited drama. And we can see the fountains kind of just not all the way up. Fountains are choreographed because occasionally they change design. Now the middle section is up. Now a diagonal. Might call it fountain sculpturing in real time. This lower section is far more capable of exciting stuff than what we're seeing. So I passed by and I saw these folks eating noodles, so I ordered the same thing. This is it. And it's big, thick, wide noodles. And it's very spicy, some kind of a warm sauce. So there we go. This man and his family stopped into the same restaurant I'm in, of course, and they started talking to me. He teaches English, and he got me some black rice porridge. So as soon as it cools down, I'm going to try it. His daughter indicates that these are made from wheat, but they're better if made from rice. But I think there's some red chili pepper in it. Sure tastes like it. Whoa. And when you need napkins, or sometimes at hotels for the bathroom in your room, they will give you little packets of these Kleenex. This time it's for... Over there they had a celebration of some sort, and they've been letting off a 20-second explosion of firecrackers, and these puppies are loud, particularly in between the two buildings on either side of the street. This is like a pita bread with meat inside of it, or like, for lack of a funny phrase, in a Chinese hamburger. They drive a very nice new car. And one thing they comment on, which I thought was very interesting, is the second time I've heard it from a Chinese person. They say, "Your voice is very beautiful." This is what remains of the firecrackers after you hear those explosions, and it's for these folks' wedding right here. So this is what you try to sneak into the United States if you can.